From Transformers Legacy United, this is the Target exclusive 4-pack of the Prime Universe Cliffjumper, the Beast Wars Universe Tarantulas, the G1 Universe Squeezeplay, and the Cyberverse Universe Tarn. So, basically a bunch of repaints, but we are getting two new characters, that being Cliffjumper and Squeezeplay, as well as the toy colors for the original Tarantulas, and a different type of Tarn that kind of reminds me more of Quake. But let's take a look-see. Obviously, the highlight here is the red boy, but maybe the 3 packing accessories will also be kind of fun. Getting these figures out of the box, I'll be honest, I'm liking a couple of them much more than I thought I would. And there's a few that I thought that were really going to bring up this set that are kind of the downers. Even still, I do enjoy the variety here. You have 4 different aesthetics going on, you have 4 very different types of character designs, character interests. It's a pretty cool 4-pack when it comes to variety, even though I don't see a connective thread here at all. But let's start with Cliff, because I know Cliff is the one everyone's curious about, and we'll go through each figure one at a time. My Cliffjumper has a really bad quality control issue. I don't know if it's going to be on every Cliffjumper, I just know it's on mine, right? But looking at Cliff, I like the design here a lot. It's not spot on to Prime Cliff at all, but it is a good looking Cliffjumper. You have a ball joint here at the neck, you have up and down at the shoulder, you do have a pin swivel here, but it constantly clashes with the backpack. You have an upper arm cut, a good single elbow, a in and out at the wrist, you have a waist swivel, universal hip, a upper leg cut, a good single knee, double jointed if you want to use a transformation joint, and then down here we have side to side at the foot, and also a bit of a heel action. Here's the thing, right? The legacy of Prime Cliff really is in his toys. I know The Rock voiced him, I know that he was used to set up that Prime was going to be a more serious show, but look at his original toys. The first edition Cliffjumper, work of art. The Prid Cliffjumper, really solid. The Legion Cliffjumper, one of the best tiny Transformers ever. This Cliff doesn't really hold up. As for that quality control issue, so this arm moves like this, right? This arm, it's too tight. It's too tight. It keeps falling out on me, and as you can see, the joint is made to pop out, but they've made the opening, I think, way too wide. So now, it's hard to get it back on. Once it's on there, it won't stay on for very long, and the backpack's constantly getting in the way. I was ready to praise this Cliffjumper, because when I was first messing with him, I thought it was so cool. And then I tried posing that arm, and, I mean, it sucks, because the reason I bought the pack was for this Cliffjumper. His accessories are also a bit of a letdown. You get a bunch of pieces in these smoky clear plastic, so with Chase, right, the figure that this is a retool of, you combine them, and you have like this cool, like, Jaws of Life weapon. That's all well and good, and that's a good reference to a toy that Chase had. But with Cliff, I guess they just looked at him and was like, huh, well that kinda looks like the gun he turns his hand into, but that one has 3 barrels. Hasbro, you did it again. That's literally what it is. They're trying to approximate Cliff's cool handgun design with this, and it doesn't work. Alongside that, I'm pretty sure the 2 are supposed to be on top, and it's hard to even get it into his hand. The best thing to do, really, is to swing the hand out, and then just try to, like, make it fit in. It's not great. It is not great at all. I'm not about to lie and tell you that I think this Cliffjumper is a bad figure. I don't. I think it's a good-looking figure with an iffy accessory and an unfortunate quality control issue on my end. I'm sure that if that arm worked out better, I would be singing the praises of this Cliff and saying how great a retool it is, even if it doesn't have the best gun. Just know that it's an issue on mine, it might be issues on others. There's not been enough in the wild yet to really make that designation yet. I will say, the very simple poses I've put him in for this review has only made it even easier to get this thing off. I mean, I guess this is to reference how he lost one of his arms when Megatron cut him in half. Yay. At least the head sculpt's nice. I do like that. Transforming Cliff, I found yet another quality control issue. So you look on this side, right? There's a rivet that holds this little piece that has the grill and the bullhorn on the front. Cool. On this side, that looks a little bit messed up, and then I look on the side, it has this gap here. That gap is not on this side. That's not a transforming piece. That's a piece that's riveted in. I can't do anything about that. It's just in at a bad angle, and because of that, I can't actually fully transform the figure without there being a big seam down the middle. This is as good as it can get on mine. You can see there are two different reds here. Some is plastic, some is painted. Alongside that, the front, that's as good as I can get it because I can't get that tab to go in. None of the tabs can go in. The best thing I can do is maybe later I'll go and I'll just shear that peg off because that's misassembled and I don't have a rivet punch. I can't fix it any other way unless I just break the toy further, really. I mean, the car mode looks fine. I think it's cool. I hate that there's this issue. But, yeah. The reason to buy the pack, everyone. Tarantulas came out far better. So, this is Tarantulas in his prototype toy colors. Real crazy stuff here. The orange, the greens, the orange, the one bit of purple that makes up the mask. I actually like it for how gross it looks. It's like, describe baby barf as a deco. That is it. But aside from that, over here, everything works. The joints are good. A lot of the new things, like the new head, they're solid enough. It helps that Tarantulas was already a really good figure. So here, I just want to point out this head sculpt, because I love this head sculpt. It is a beautiful, beautiful head for Tarantulas. I like it so much. It's very unique. I kind of hate that we never saw this head ever. For anyone who doesn't know, Tarantulas' head inside the show is his mutant head. This is the actual head of the toy. He had a battle mask that would come down, and that's the head that makes Tarantulas. Alongside that, though, we have a ball joint at the head. We have a good universal joint at the shoulder. We have an upper arm cut, and then a cut down here, and then you have technically an elbow for the pincher. So there's not actually a proper elbow on this figure, but it doesn't really matter because the hand is basically half the arm. There is a waist joint, really well hidden in there, by the way. You have a universal at the hip. You have a good double jointed knee. You have a good rotation at the foot and up and down. So the really cool thing, you see this weird color scheme, right? This really gross, disgusting color scheme. My favorite thing about original Tarantulas, in the show, he's an evil scientist, right? Well, originally he was supposed to be a ninja. What about this says ninja? It helps that you have all the spider legs alongside Tarantulas' arms. Don't get me wrong, it makes it hard to pose him. They clash with everything. But if you make them work for you, it gives the entire figure such an aura. I'll be honest, I'm having more fun messing with this Tarantulas than I did with Cliffjumper. Now, I'll point out the big issue I have with spider legs, that being the fact that you just have those big open gaps on them. With the original Tarantulas, the legs were black, so it was hard to notice, but here, where they're this kind of gray color, kind of hard to miss. Really cool little detail about Tarantulas is his small Predacon thigh tattoo. I don't know why, I just think it's really cool that that's where he put his logo. I like it whenever the logo is not just on the chest or the shoulder. I always think it gives a little bit of character. Speaking of character, Tarantulas got two really good accessories. You have his usual crossbow, as well as a buzzsaw. They can combine together, like this, but I don't really think that looks all that good, to be honest with you. Why don't we just give him the two separate weapons, right? So we'll give him the crossbow here on the right. I say the right, that'd be his left. And then we'll give him his saw just right here. So, if you're able to get close to him, he'll still be able to slice and dice you. There we are. Him alongside Legacy Tarantulas, and I got to say, especially if you get creative with the spider legs, it feels like a completely different figure. Aside from the light green they share, and even then it is a different Pantone of green, there's not a single shared color or deco option between them. They really went with this prototype Tarantulas trying to make it everything it could be, and as a result, it's one of the more interesting figures to come out in the past few years, just in terms of an odd pool. I think it's going to look great alongside Toy Color's Black Arachnia, and it kind of makes me hope that we might eventually get more Toy Color Beast Wars characters. Like, Tarantulas has always had a really good transformation, and this figure keeps that transformation, but makes the colors just slightly more realistic. Let's face it, there's not many purple spiders in the world, but there's plenty of spiders that look like they're orange in certain lights. This guy, if, you know, wolf spiders had gray legs, he'd actually be pretty close to a wolf spider just in terms of the fur and the coloration. I love this so much. Obviously, there's some oddities like the pinchers here are supposed to be like mandibles, but then you got clever things like how all the legs fold up into the this part of the spider. I don't know spiders. Or how the crossbow becomes the spinneret. You have these legs that are able to hold the figure up, so you do actually have some options when it comes to posing this spider mode. Make him really tall, ultra gangly, creepy. It's really, really solid. What really helps is just how good that spider head is. It honestly makes me want to keep this figure in spider mode and keep the other Tarantulas in robot mode, just because this is one of the best beast modes I've ever seen out of a deluxe. Just like Tarantulas, I didn't really care when they announced that Squeezeplay was going to be in this box. I just thought, oh, another filler. But truth be told, I really like this guy too, mostly because he's still a Titan's Return figure, and I love his energy. Like, just look at this dude with these sharp colors, these proportions. There is something so 80s super robot about it, and he wears it very well. The face is very pretty. I love this face sculpt for Squeezeplay. What's also really cool is just to go ahead and bury the lead. Boop, you can pop it out, and oh, I've knocked his legs off. There we go. He still has a Titan Master. This is awesome, because there's a lot of kids who probably weren't around for Titan's Return. Well, now you get to play with the gimmick a little bit. I also really like our little guy here. Look at his little, like, spaceman helmet. That's pretty neat. He, of course, has ball joints in the arms, and an up and down at the hips, and a knee joint, as well as a ball joint in the head that becomes the neck joint for Squeezeplay. As for Squeezeplay, he is the least articulated figure in the pack, but it's still decent. You do have that neck swivel still. You also have a bit of a confused dog look if you want it. You have up and down at the shoulders, as well as a ball joint. You have an upper arm cut. You have a good double jointed knee. You have up and down at the wrist. You have a waist swivel. You have a universal at the hip. Upper leg cut. A good single knee. And side to side down here. Alongside that, because of the transformation, you do get toe joints on both sides of the foot. So that's pretty interesting. Towards the end of Titan's Return, these molds have been reused to the point that it was just kind of common knowledge that they were all going to be very loose. Squeezeplay here, though, some joints are very loose, like in the knees, but then other joints are ultra tight, especially in the upper body. He's a very weird bag when it comes to tolerances. He does have a couple of accessories as well. He, of course, has his buckler here that I have on his arm. Pretty cool looking. He also comes with this. That just looks like a Glock. I don't know why. But out of all the space guns we've ever had in Transformers, apparently Squeezeplay is just like Arn Anderson. He pulled out the Glock. Seriously, between his colors and the fact that that is just an actual pistol, I'm having way too much fun posing this guy. Here's Squeezeplay alongside his buddy Fangry, who would have been in another 4-pack a few years ago. And I love how these two look together. Like, I can already see their dynamic, that he's the one that's slightly smarter, but he's still a moron, and Fangry's just the absolute dumb muscle. This is basically the Sticky Bandits from Home Alone. That's who these two are. And then both of these guys are intense remolds of Twinferno, with Squeezeplay taking more from Grotesque and Repugnus later on, who were themselves extremely heavy retools of Twinferno. Your guess is as good as mine as to what Squeezeplay turns into. At this point in the G1 line, they were kind of just saying, he's a snake troll, why not? But I really like this. So up here you can see this is just a massive Cobra head. You gotta say, like, look at that, that is literally just G.I. Joe Cobra. I wonder, do you think this is ever gonna be like that armor suit that Cobra had? I don't know. At the same time, you do have a lot of new articulation here. So you have the hips are now shoulders, the knees are now elbows. We can now use the ankles as wrists, and then we can move those toes to really be cool claws. Alongside that, down here in the legs, you can go out and out. You have a ball joint at the hip. You can't use the feet because they've been frozen by the transformation, unfortunately. But still, that's good articulation. You can also see the buckler is back here now acting like a tail. So, a very weird little monster. But what about the head? Keep in mind, in Titan's Return, these guys were supposed to still pilot these larger bodies in vehicle mode. Well, look right here. You got a belly flap. Boop. Open up the belly flap. There's literally a control chair in there. You can see that they've carved in a place for this little guy to sit. I'm going to bend his knees, put him in there. Oh, he fits really well. And then close him back up. Boom. Now he's behind the wheel. But here's my question. Where do I put the Glock? That just leaves us with Tarn. Now Tarn, when I first saw him, I was like, oh, he's not that crazy a repaint. Trust me, we'll see in a minute. He is a major repaint of the original Tarn. Alongside that, it is supposed to give you Cyberverse Tarn, which is so far Tarn's only appearance in animation. That's a shame, because Cyberverse Tarn was cool, don't get me wrong, but he didn't really match the grandeur of the IDW Tarn. A big reason for that is I think the design just got a little bit too messy. Now, I know a lot of people like to joke about IDW Tarn's design, how it's too hench, but truth be told, when you think about it, it's actually a very elegant design, at least in a color standpoint. Here, you got bright purple, dark purple, gray, maroon, gold, bright red, a little bit of cherry gold. Like, there's a lot of colors at play here. I didn't even mention the black in the shoulders. And it kind of makes the figure interesting. It does. It makes the body and the sculpted detail more interesting, but it also makes the figure just a bit more convoluted. For instance, look at Tarn's head now. The original Tarn, it's a nice, simple idea. He's so fanatic that his face is literally the Decepticon logo. Here, the addition of red does help. It helps break out the crest. But you add it to almost form like a Joker mouth? That makes the head look a little bit odd, doesn't it? You can see small quibbles like that throughout the entire design of Cyberverse Tarn, and because this figure is trying to be as accurate as it can to that paint job, it's here too. What is undeniable, though, is the presence of this figure. A beautiful Voyager with amazing proportions that cuts an incredible figure. In terms of articulation, we have a ball joint at the head, we have a universal at the shoulder, we have an not an upper arm, but an elbow cut that goes side to side, a good single jointed elbow, a wrist swivel, articulated fingers so you can have like a beckoning hand, why not? You have a waist swivel, a universal at the hip, you have an upper leg cut that can become a double joint knee if you use the transformation joint, and then down here at the ankle, you have side to side and back and forth. That is an amazing suite of articulation for what is honestly one of the best designed figures of the last few years, at least when it comes to Generations Voyagers. Tarn, so far, has had a great figure history. He only has like 4 toys, don't get me wrong, but all 4 of them are standout. Tarn does have a little bit of issue with accessories, though. So for one, you have his double fusion cannon, which is cool. The way this works is basically you have 2 fusion cannons plus a connector here. That just goes on his arm. That said, it is just a little bit goofy. Don't get me wrong, in the comics it looked great, but here, because it actually has to exist in 3D space and be a part of a transforming toy, not the best. Alongside that, we have these smaller guns here that are just there to complete the silhouette. And honestly, I think for this figure, the best accessory is just this sword. Because the sword, it looks cool, it's purple, and it's simple. It's a nice, simple accessory. But even the convoluted ones can have some cool ideas to them. Sure, you can have Tarn's cannons the way they are meant to be. Or you could give him a fusion cannon on either arm and make the design more symmetric. Or you could keep one on the connector and have the other one on the other arm, so we have the idea that this is the ultra-powerful one, and this is more like if someone runs at him, he'll use this one. And that's all without mentioning the sword and how well-articulated Tarn is to actually make use of it. If you've watched my channel for long enough, you know that the single greatest thing a Transformer or any action figure can do in my book is give you options. With Tarn, with going with a different universe, this Tarn is able to give you a number of different choices. Do you want him to look more IDW with his gun placements? Do you want to lean more into the sword? And the best part is the colors are so different that he actually does really stand out against IDW Tarn. I was thinking they were going to look way too similar, but having them in hand, much like Tarantulas, I think they changed enough to give this figure a brand new energy. When I bought this 4-pack, I was dreading Tarn, because I felt like I was buying the same toy again. But really looking at these two, it's such a great figure. They didn't have to change any sculpting, new sword, and different paint job, but it is a new feeling figure. If I really just need another reason to like this guy, I could always say that this is Tarn, and this is one of the perfect Decepticon drones from Cyberverse. It could be different characters, but it doesn't really feel like I need that justification because they already feel different enough as is. The tank mode is solid, not perfectly identical to what we saw in IDW, but a close attempt. Really, my issue here is just how finicky some of the pieces can be, especially when it comes to the torso, but at the end of the day, good little future tank. Maybe not as good as Studio Series Shockwave. Getting these four all together, I'm just reminded, this is an $80 pack. They're charging you as though everything here is a deluxe, but you're getting an older Titan's Return deluxe and a Voyager. So, really, the price is great. Now, let's be honest here. The all-star of the pack was supposed to be Cliffjumper. I can't tell you how many people made the joke that this is supposed to be the Cliffjumper and Friends pack. I made that same joke at the beginning of this video. Out of these four, Cliffjumper is the worst one. Even if the QC issues weren't there, I don't think I would have had as much fun with him as I've had with Tarantulas, Tarn, and especially Squeezeplay. This 4-pack proves the old adage true. Don't judge a book by its cover. I thought this was going to be a cash grab of a 4-pack with only one standout. Instead, Cliffjumper, even though I still think this could be a good figure if I had gone a better version with not the shoulder issues, he's not the most interesting one here. Tarn is a ton of fun to play with. Tarantulas' colors give him such a creepy feeling, and Squeezeplay has a Glock. I like the 3 Decepticons of this pack so much more than Cliffjumper, and I would honestly say if you're interested in at least 2 or 3 of the figures here, I think it's worth the money.